Okay, here I'm going to talk a little bit about the grommets and the patches on the fuselage again. So here's the grommet. This one here, you'll notice, has the kind of change in angle as it goes over. So what I did is just kind of set it where it was supposed to go with this, where the tube is going to sit basically right there. And then I just kind of slightly bent it so it would help hold it down. Now I used poly tack on the bottom of this and poly tacked it down. Then I just took some little 5-pound weight bags that I had. I used some the little 5-pound bags that you divers use, some of my diving gear, and they make good little. So I put one here and I put one over here just to kind of hold it down where it makes that bend, where it sometimes wants to pull up just a little bit. Now, we put the 2 coats of poly brush around here to get started before we do it. And so the way we're going to do this is we're going to cut the inside of this out eventually. So it's really not going to matter what we do in here. We want to make sure we have good adhesion with no bubbles and where it looks nice, starting from the grommet all the way out. So that patch is going to have to go down inside this crease. So I'll keep my little card here handy, a little key card from hotels or whatever. You can throw them away, but of course you can just keep using them. You can clean this off with a little bit of MEK. And what I'll do, and it's kind of hard trying to hold this camera and do it too, but I'll see what I can do here. So we're going to take this. I always keep, when I get my poly brush in a container, I always kind of cover it as I'm going because it evaporates super fast. So I keep it in here, and of course I keep a really good brush to do poly brush. I use chip brushes, the little chip brushes, to do stuff like with poly tack where I can just throw them away. But these here, I'm actually using a good brush because the hairs on the poly brush or on the chip brushes come out in the glue and leave them there and leave a nasty mess. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead, and I kind of use a lot of it. I like to keep it nice and wet because the more wet it is, the more that the patch will actually slide around a little bit, so you can move it, get air bubbles out, things like that. So I put a lot, especially right around the edges here, you see, where it's going to have to go down, and then just kind of put a little bit around the outline. Do it rather quickly before it starts to set up too much. And then we're going to set the patch in place. Again, I'm having to do this with one hand, so I'm going to kind of do this. So you can slide it around where we get the drawings about right, where it's centered on there correctly. And then the first thing I do is get the inside down. So I get some more pretty wet brush. I go to the inside. As you get the patch, the fabric wet, it tends to maybe bend a little better and move around. So just put a bunch in there. And again, what we're trying to do is get the air kind of out of this inside area right here so we don't have a bubble in there. Again, this doesn't matter much on the inside because we're going to cut it out, but I'll still just kind of try to do that. Then I go around just the grommet area. So let it kind of hold that, because once you get it kind of wet and it starts to dry, you'll kind of hold what it's got. And then go around the edge here, pushing down so you get down in that crease. So that way you can kind of push the air bubbles as you go, pushing it down. You can see that it's still wanting to come up, but as it gets wet and sits there a little longer and starts to tack up, it'll tend to stay in place. So keep your brush kind of wet, because again, it makes the patch move around easier. It makes it easier for the air bubbles to get out. But we're going to see everything here when we finish, so we want to make sure this is looking pretty good. So get it all wet and then just keep working it. See there, we've got a little air. That's where it makes that little bend right there. You may end up with a little bubble right there anyway, which we'll iron out later because it will shrink that up if you can't push it out. Just kind of taking that brush and kind of pushing the patch down. Maybe I can work it out. Maybe I can. I'm just kind of putting pressure on the brush. Maybe even use your finger. Okay, see the air bubble still kind of popping up. There's probably going to end up being something there, but don't be afraid to work it out. Then just keep going around that edge, and then before it gets too dry, we've got it pretty well there. Now let's go smooth it out. And then we're going to take this. Then I'm going to get my card. Then I'm concerned about the outside, so I'm just going to take that card and push it along that edge. I know my shadow is getting in there, but we're just going to kind of take that, and if you can see it, we're going to push that air bubble. See it disappearing? Just going to keep pushing that air out of there so it gets up next to it all the way down, like that. See, boom, out there it goes. And then just keep kind of working it back so you have a nice edge, you know, there like that. Pushing that air out. Once you get the air out, and then this patch can still slide over. The worst thing is to pull the fabric out that way so it'll pull away from that indenture. So don't try to push the fabric out. You want to push it in towards the grommet. Big air bubble there, see it? We'll get that sucker out of there. Boom, gone. Back around here, start back up here. Same thing there, you can see that air bubble. We're just pushing it right on out. Pushing it right up next to the edge of that grommet. There it comes out. Here at the end. See that air coming out. Still got air coming out. Pretty much got it, okay? I'm just gonna keep working it. As this dries, I just kind of keep working it. Getting that air bubbles out. Keep doing it around. Doing it like that. I can go ahead and get that off while you're at it. Coming back around this side. Bubble right there, but that's going to have to iron out. It's because of that bend where that's the high spot here. So we won't worry. We'll do the best we can, and then we'll iron it out. The iron will shrink it up, remember. Still got a little air coming out. Across here. Get that air out. Get that air out. As long as that patch stays wet down here, that air can go underneath it. If you let this too dry, the air it'll start to dry the patch and it won't let the air out. And if I do that, I'll pick the patch up, let the air out, and then put it back down later. So again, this is what you're going to look at later. So you want it to look pretty. You cannot iron these areas here out later, because if you iron that patch, it's going to actually get tighter and pull away from that edge. And we've got a tape coming across here. It's going to come up here too. So we'll have a tape, a final tape that'll overlap this joint running along this way. That's looking pretty darn good there, see. Back go, just keep checking it as it's drying. Like that. All right, again, I don't care much about these on the inside. That's cutting off. I just want to make sure it's nice and tight up against this edge of the grommet, because we're going to cut it right along this grommet, along this edge. That looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to just take my brush, leave it kind of dry, not real wet at this point, and then I'm just going to smooth everything out where it kind of looks better. Just kind of go along it. Again, make sure you're not pushing the patch out, or you'll push it away from that edge. Make sure everything has a good, you see I'm still working from the top down to the bottom, because that's where I was letting my air out. Heard my little bubble there. That's the best I'm going to do with that. It'll iron right out. Come back down here, come across the bottom. Again, just trying to keep any blobs later. We're going to come back with the MEK and we'll clean this kind of thick edge right here where it's just coming over kind of thick, but that's okay. With poly brush, I've got a cool morning here. I'm about 60 degrees, so it's very slow setting up. If you have a day where it's hotter, you won't have as much time to do this, it'll start to set up quicker. Just try to work in any bubbles that you see, those little light areas there. Work them out. Again, you can kind of iron those later and make them look pretty, but as long as you don't have any bubbles, then that's pretty much it. So that's how you can do a grommet. We'll do the same thing with this one. Put the round one in, get it real wet, push it down in the middle, and then and then work to the center ring, and then go to the outside, and then use the card and go around this edge here, because this is what you're going to see. Once again, you're going to see from here out. Your metal cover, inspection ring cover, is going to go inside of here and go out. We'll end up cutting this out on the inside edge of the grommet. I always try to make these really nice. I know which ones of these we'll really use. There are quite a few inspection holes that don't have to be opened to actually build the airplane. So usually you just leave those uncut later during the build, but they're there so later on for inspection purposes they might need to be cut out, and then you can put the ring on there. So I always make them real pretty anyway. Same thing with this patch. I got the center matched here, and we'll just get it wet and then stick the patch on the area. I set the patches down. I've drawn the ring around it, put that on here, and then get it wet. Same thing, we've got one here. You can see this grommet essentially goes, try to get out of the shadows, essentially goes right along this fuselage tube right here. Just take it along the edge right here. Then of course the manual gives you the dimensions, how far this is from the back here to here, and how far it is from here to the outside of this tube. But pretty much if you get your dimension this way, it's going to go right along. You want just to look nice, you want it to go right along the edge of that tube, just like that, and then the patch is going to go over the edge like that. So anyhow, that's kind of a short deal on how I do the grommets and make them pretty.